So, hello and welcome to the Temple Without Boundaries. And I'm the Reverend Octavia Brooks, and today's topic is get off the plateau and launch to your next level. And the philosophy behind that is where we identify some restraints, some constrictions inside us. So I'm going to first lead us in an exercise about that. And then we're going to go on a journey and ask for a lot of divine beings, a lot of divine assistance in bringing us out of those restrictions and those constraints. And then there'll be a middle ground, a place where we're just empty. And so I'm going to go over all of these in a little bit more detail. This is the lay of the land here as far as what we're doing today. And after we kind of experience that floaty space, we'll go into the next part of the journey, which is going to be very carefully adding back in what we want in order to keep ourselves very expanded and take ourselves even further out of that expansion into the next level. So this is going to be applicable for any aspect of your life where you feel blocked or constrained or held back. And it's just a really good release and receive process to lighten up your energy. So this is a group energy healing. And the first thing I'm going to do is open up the temple without boundaries. So I'm opening the temple and creating a safe and sacred space around all of us, bringing us into union in time and place, no matter where we are. And I'm going to go ahead and call the 7 directions now. And usually we go into the temple to call the 7 directions, on the journey. We journey into the temple and call the 7 directions from there. But I'm asking their support today because we're going to be doing one extra process before we get into the journey that I'd like to receive divine support. So I'm going to call the 7 directions. I'm going to call all of our higher selves and our highest guides. And then I'm going to open the floor for you to bring in the guides that you connect with. So whether that's a guru, whether that is the Christian God, or if there's a goddess that you like to work with. So all of divine beings will be welcome here in the temple. And then if you wanted to get a pencil and paper, you're welcome to. We're going to do a little bit, I'm guiding us on, so now I'm going to the next level of detail about what we're doing today. I'm going to guide you on a personal self-discovery exercise to figure out where you are blocked in your expansiveness. And then that will be information that we'll take with us into the journey. And I also want to ask you what it is that you are going for. So you're blocked in one way, what is it really holding you back from? And that could be joyfulness, playfulness, creativity, any of those feelings or sensations, or even abundance. Like, what does that feel like? Okay. So give you a moment to get some pen and paper in case you are needing that for these self-discovery exercises. And there'll be a place in the journey where we may get some information to help us stay in the expanded state as well. So something to take notes on if you like. Okay. So I'm opening my heart and asking you all to open your hearts to the east and to the element of air. And I'm calling upon all the guides, guardians, allies, ancestors, angels, archangels, and protectors of east and of air to please join us here in the temple today and support us and anchor us. And in the east and the element of air, we're particularly asking for new ideas to...
Entry and exit chimes are off.
New ideas, new beginnings, and above all, the winds of change, the winds that can cleanse us, the winds that can blow upon us and expand the space between ourselves and open us up further. So welcoming east in the element of air. Opening our hearts and connecting into south and to the element of fire. And calling all the guides, guardians, allies, ancestors, angels, archangels, and protectors of south and of fire. And asking fire to please inspire us on a soul level. Please connect us with our innate ability to be expanded. And connect us with our creative process of self-discovery and allow that to ignite the spark of expansion, allowing us to be creative in our self-discovery so we can manifest our divine nature more and more and more. So now opening our hearts to the west and to the element of water, and calling all the guides, guardians, allies, ancestors, angels, archangels, and protectors of west and of water to please be here with us and to cleanse us and clean us of these obstacles that keep us held back, keep us in constriction, in restriction, anything that prevents us from feeling expanded. And water, we also ask you to please loosen us. Please help us detach from these substances, from these residues, from these lower vibrations that hold us back from being totally expanded. Welcome, water. Opening our hearts into the north, into the element of earth, calling upon all the guides, guardians, allies, ancestors, angels, archangels, and protectors of earth and of north, calling upon earth to stabilize this process, especially when we feel so expanded beyond what we've ever experienced before. Teach us that we can be centered in that space. Teach us that we can feel grounded in that space, that we can still feel very embodied and connected here to the third dimensional reality while we stay expanded. So thank you and welcome to Earth. And opening our hearts down to the center of this mother planet, the center of the Earth, the heartbeat at the center of this Earth, and calling upon the divine Mother Goddess beneath us to create a safe and sacred foundation upon which we will expand and grow. Thank you for the Divine Mother's presence. And opening our hearts and connecting into the great above, and calling upon the Divine Masculine presence, the heartbeat at the center of the multiverse, and asking the Divine Masculine presence to bring the stars, the moon, and the sun here to help us be aware of the greater vibrations and the greater potential. Help us to create discernment in our expansiveness so that we can protect against any encroachments upon that. As new restrictions and constraints try to come back in, that we will discern and defend against those. And opening our hearts to the element of center and calling upon the heartbeat that runs through all consciousness, throughout all time, space, and dimension, which is divine love. Calling upon divine love to reign in this session and reign here in this teleceremony and bring us all together in union in one central heartbeat, whether we are here live on the call or whether we are in listening to the replay. We are all together in this at once. So the first thing that I'd like to ask everyone to do, please, is give some thought to where you would like to be, what you would really like to experience in your life. What are the qualities that you feel are a little bit lacking or missing for you? So where do you want to grow into? So whether that is more love or whether that is more abundance, then give some thought to that and allow yourself to just brainstorm creatively about that for a minute. And we're going to use that information at the very end of the teleceremony. I'll just give you a moment to identify that a little bit for yourself. And while you're doing that, continue to take some deep breaths and oxygenate your body because that will give you even more ideas. Allow yourself to really open your mind to what freedom would feel like to yourself, what happiness would feel like to yourself, what joyfulness would feel like to yourself. And it's okay if you can only identify one or two things right now, because we'll have the assistance of the divine beings to bring even more of that to us. In fact, I have a few more invocations to do. So calling upon all of our highest selves to be present here throughout all time, space, and dimension, so including the highest selves of all the people who might be listening to this replay, and calling upon all the highest guides who may also be present here now with the current participants and in the replay, calling upon all the highest guides and all the highest selves to please arrive and be here. I'm calling upon some of the most expansive beings who can teach us. So calling upon White Eagle, who flies high up in the air and brings us into our highest perspective. Calling upon the primordial goddess Lilith, who creates a very, very broad and open, expansive feeling, but also encourages our embodiment, allows us to be in a very expanded state and also to stay really connected here in the third dimension and connected into our cellular structure and bring that light down and into ourselves. Calling upon Yeshua, the great Jesus, Christos energy, that broad, expansive, masculine energy that's very white, bright light. And inviting you all to please call in any other divine beings, any gurus that you would like to participate in this journey today. We'll just have a party of divine beings. Okay. So the next part that I'd like to do with you is a self-discovery. And I'd like to have you close your eyes if you aren't already closing your eyes. And I'd like to have you take some really deep breaths into your body. So there are probably a few things that you know about yourself in terms of what kinds of limitations you feel in yourself, where you might feel held back, where you might feel constricted or constrained. So whether you're feeling resistance to taking another step, to really knowing what's next for yourself, whether you're feeling fear, whether you're feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, any of those types of emotions or sensations. I'd like to have you identify where that limitation is, where you feel that or those limitations, where do you feel them in your body? Take a deep breath and send that breath into that place in your body now. Acknowledging the feeling and sensation in your body, giving it a witness, allowing it to be acknowledged. And then as that part of you begins to recognize that it's getting attention, take another deep breath and now really, really go into your heart space. Take a deep breath in the center of your chest. And with the assistance of all the divine beings here, open your heart as wide as you possibly can. Really, really engage yourself with your love. Stand in your love. Take another really deep breath into your heart space, being really aware of your posture, sitting up as straight and tall as you possibly can, or stretching out your torso if you happen to be laying down. And give your chest and give your heart plenty of room to expand. And then look again to those places that identify themselves to you. And with the headlight of love from your heart space, holding space for those places inside yourself, ask them if there is anything that they would like to tell you, any messages they might have for you. And the question to ask is, where did you come from? How did you get started? What is your story? Giving that part of you the opportunity to tell you a little bit about itself. And sometimes you might feel that they are a little bit shy. So just hold space and listen as much as you possibly can, as much as they're willing to show themselves to you. What is it that they would like to show you? What is it that they would like to tell you about how they got started? When was the first time you experienced that sensation in your body, that emotion, that limitation? So giving thanks now to that part of you that gave you this personal information, that showed its vulnerability to you. Acknowledging your love for that part of yourself. Giving gratitude and thanks that it was willing to express itself. So we're going to bring some healing energy to that place in the form of willingness, willingness to shift and transmute and change that restriction, that limitation. So calling upon air and water to circulate through each one of us now, just very, very gently. In any of those places in your body that you experienced, allowing the energy of water and of air to very tenderly nurture and nourish in and around those places of restriction that you identified in your body that relate to these emotions, these belief systems, these past experiences. But as you continue to take deep breaths, invite those divine energies of water and air, just exactly the right proportion, exactly the right measure, to loosen, to surround and circulate and loosen those restrictions inside you. And you may feel a sensation of movement because both of those energies are very, very movement oriented. So feel free to move around in your chair if you feel called to do that. Allow yourself to go with those feelings of motion. And that will definitely enhance the depth of this part of our process this evening. Okay. And so now we have identified some of the restrictions and we've gotten some really important information about where they came from, how they started, how they got started with us. And we've invited them to loosen up and to be willing to shift and change. So we're going to go into our journey now, our first journey for the evening. And I invite you to choose a starting place for your journey. And a good type of starting place is a place that you may have been to that has a wonderful, you have a really good feeling associated with it. Most of the time, people choose a natural place, but it doesn't have to be a natural place. Some place that you experienced a really joyful moment or a powerful moment. So begin to imagine yourself in that place now. And take another deep breath into your body. Imagining that you are surrounded on all sides by every aspect of the starting place where you are. And there should be an aspect of light there or fire. You may notice a little breeze available there. And you may notice that there is some element of earth. And hopefully an element of water nearby, whether it's even just a glass of water on the desk or the moisture in the air. And now call here to you in this sacred starting place. Call to you one of your highest guides. Ask your guides who would like to join you on this journey of launching off your plateau, releasing this baggage so that you can fly more freely. And feel or notice somehow that that guide is now arriving. So your guide begins to gesture you toward another pathway that you hadn't noticed before. And this pathway very naturally and gradually leads through a young forest of saplings. And it's a beautiful forest. The light of the day is shining so pretty through the leaves, through the treetops, and making beautiful patterns on the forest floor as the breeze moves the trees. There's all this light play, light and shadow. And you're immersed in the experience of being in this beautiful young forest of saplings. And your senses are heightened and you recognize the presence of the forest creatures here. You feel them watching you as you walk down the path with your guide. Continuing to stroll through this little forest, you start to notice a bright light at the end of the path, which looks like sunlight. And sure enough, when you get to the end of the pathway, you open up onto a very beautiful field, an open field, tall grass, birds, flowers. And as you arrive in this field, you recognize the arrival of all your other companions on this journey. And you meet together in the field and acknowledge each other with joy and recognition. And collectively you notice at one end of the field there is a building so large and so ornate. You can't even see where it extends to the left or to the right on the horizon, and you cannot perceive how tall the building is. You feel naturally inclined to move towards this amazing building, and you're grateful to find that there are stairs that allow you to go up on the front porch. And as all of you ascend the stairs together, the beautiful, gigantic doors on the front of this building open noiselessly to admit you. And you arrive in the central chamber of the temple without boundaries. And in this beautiful, beautiful chamber, all along the walls, as high as you can possibly perceive, are ornate statues and altars and magical tools, glittering and gleaming. You notice that there are altars to each of the directions. There's an altar for the air in east. There's an altar for fire in the south. There's an altar for water in the west, and an altar for earth in the north. And there's a central altar that looks like a tree with the roots planted deep in the earth, branches high up into there's ceiling, if there is a ceiling of the central chamber, and a glowing heartbeat in the center of the trunk of the tree, representing the element of center. So you and your guides all assemble into a sacred circle in the center of this chamber, bringing you together in union with the purpose of expanding yourself and launching to your next level. Your guides begin to gesture you to a very specific doorway off the chamber, off the center chamber. And the doorway opens to a beautiful outdoor columnade, a passageway that's open air, a lengthy hallway of columns. And out to either side through the columns you can see beautiful gardens. The light is so rich here. You can feel magic in the air. You can feel the thickness, the presence of this place. And as you walk down the columnade together, very gradually and naturally you come upon a beautiful altar. And at this altar is a very tall being dressed in a cloak. And there's a very strong presence about this being, but you cannot see their face. The presence is very heavy. Very, very heavy. As you approach the altar, you're not sure how safe it is to be in the presence of this being, but your guides are very encouraging, if not insistent, that you present yourself to this being. This being, in a very demanding and commanding voice, asks you, what are you sacrificing today? What are you ready to surrender? What are you giving me? What is your payment? And through the work that you did earlier this evening, you begin to allow those resistances and those fears, those outdated belief systems, you lay them one by one on the altar. And he nods his head in his cloak, but it's very clear that he is not yet satisfied. So your guide standing behind you and supporting you and holding you strong and firm helps you to find even more inside you that you can sacrifice and surrender to this most powerful guardian. And the guardian, while acknowledging that you're making your best effort, doesn't feel satisfied, not demonstrating that he is satisfied yet. So with the support and the assistance of your guide and acknowledging the presence of all the divine beings that were called here, if you are willing, this guardian will assist you in sacrificing even more baggage and burden than you are consciously aware of. If that's something that you are ready for, give your assent, give your consent, say yes, knowing that you are very, very supported. This extremely powerful being standing in front of you takes more and more out of you, begins to rapidly insert his hands throughout your being, throughout many, many parts of your body, and pulls and pulls and pulls out of you all the vibrations that are holding you back, all the belief systems that are holding you back, anything in your body that is a resistance. Finally, he stands back, satisfied with his work. You may feel a little bit weak and a little bit vulnerable, and your guide is there to support you. This guardian stands back. He stands tall and satisfied, and he throws his hood back, and you recognize him to be the most beautiful being you've ever seen in your life. And with love emanating from him, he congratulates you at all of the releases that you were able to shed, all of the baggage that you were able to give him. He congratulates you, clasps your hand, acknowledges you for your courage, and releasing all of these things that have probably been both uncomfortable to carry around, but very, very uncomfortable to let go of. Because now you're in a state of vulnerability. So he honors you for your sacrifices. He pledges to protect you. So feeling quite different than you did before you stood before his altar. You follow this guardian, this beautiful, beautiful guardian, further down the colonnade, the hallway, the outdoor hallway, which now has come into even sharper clarity and deeper beauty. It really seems like there are more flowers growing, more beautiful scents on the air, more beautiful light play. And you're marveling at all of this as you also marvel at the sensations in your body feeling so much lighter, and you feel like you're almost floating behind this guardian. As you progress down this colonnade, you pay attention because it just seems to be getting brighter and brighter and brighter. You're losing track of the guardian in front of you because there's so much light now. All around you, you're beginning to be surrounded by light. And the ground on the column that you were walking on gives way, and you find that you are completely floating. And while you can perceive your guide and the guardian in this space, they're stepping back away from you to allow you to experience this expanded state that you have achieved through the virtue of your sacrifices. And in this expanded state, you feel so light and you are floating here. You feel light in your heart, you feel light in your body, you feel light in your consciousness. And your guide points out that this is what your divinity feels like. This is what your innate creator self feels like when you release all of your human constraints. You're in a place of pure potential here. Everything is possible from this state of expansiveness, of unity and self-awareness of your own innate divinity. So while on one end it feels a little uncomfortable to really just be this open and this expanded, maybe you're not even sure how you should be feeling. There's a lot of unknowns here, a lot of unfamiliarity. You're used to definition and you're used to structure, but here there's no definition, there's no structure. But there is love, and there's a safe feeling of safety, a feeling of knowingness that you're all right. And so you can decide to trust. If you make that choice to trust, you can accept what it feels like to be in this extended state. Then you can discern when anything might change and begin to hem you in so that you no longer feel expanded. So start to probe for the edges of this expansiveness. How expanded can you really be? Feel celebratory, feel joyful, feel lighthearted, feel even playful, creative, bubbly. You may even want to laugh or giggle. Allow yourself to really, really participate in this expansiveness, to go with it, to go into it, to be this expanded. Really get to know what it's like to be expanded. Take some really deep breaths in your body. And as you breathe deeply, request that your cellular structure retain a memory of this expansiveness. You start to feel yourself moving. And you notice that it is the guardian and your guide. And you can perceive that you're moving gently upward. Very naturally and gradually, you arrive in a sky temple. This sky temple is very nearly transparent. You can just barely perceive a set of columns. It's a very simple temple. And the guardian, who becomes ever so slightly more visible, brings you to float in front of an altar in this temple. You notice that you're surrounded by clouds. And the guardian invites you now on the altar here to place any of your hopes and dreams, any of your wishes. And as you're so aware of your expanded state, it's very easy for you to discern whether any of your wishes from the beginning of this journey are going to be restrictive or whether they are adding and expanding you further, opening you up further, increasing your vibration. So what do you decide to place on this altar? What helps you feel even more expanded in your life? What gifts can you give yourself? What gifts as a creator can you choose for yourself? From a place of expansion, will you choose greater love in your life? Will you choose to be an open channel for divine action through you, through your life? With every request placed on this altar, test it. Does it fall through the altar, indicating that it is lower vibrational state than where you are right now in your expanded state? Or do you and the altar float upward, indicating that you're increasing your vibration and increasing your expansiveness? One by one, measure all of your hopes and dreams for yourself and choose what brings you into the higher expansion, what will launch you to your next level. Feeling your heart open even wider with every increase of your vibration. Your guide and the guardian are very pleased with your choices, very supportive of the creative options you have laid out for yourself. Taking all of this information into your heart will keep you true to these highest vibrations. Your guide is indicating now that it is time to depart from the sky temple. And very naturally and gradually, you find yourself as a still extremely expanded being floating downward. Very, very naturally and gradually, you find yourself at the highest point of the transparent ceiling, floating downward into the central chamber of the Temple Without Boundaries. Forming once again the circle formation with all of your companions on this journey, noticing the difference from the beginning of the journey, how bright and light and maybe even taller and bigger everyone appears around the circle. Celebrating each other's success. And into the central chamber, a very, very tall and extremely beautiful being, a great, great goddess with tremendous beauty and presence, arrives in the central chamber to join you. She towers over everyone by tens of feet, but her presence is graceful and gentle and nurturing, like a mother. She has a pitcher in her hand, and what she pours for each person attending here, including the guides, is an elixir of knowing. And this elixir will allow you to integrate everything you've done here today, all in one drink. Those tender, tender parts that you identified at the beginning of the journey become completely nourished and whole and made whole. And everything you learned from being in that expansive state, from being in your current and present expansive state, and everything you received, all the blessings you received to bring you into those next highest levels. Everything within the drop of this elixir, flowing now deeply into every aspect of your being. As you drink this, you can receive it into every aspect of your cellular structure and even into the molecular particles, the subatomic particles, and the space between the space of every aspect that comprises your being in your body and throughout all of the expanded reaches. So with her presence and with the benefit of her elixir, feeling completely integrated, all of these processes, all these shifts and all these changes. And she especially places a precious drop of discernment, just one little drop from her into each of your auras that allows you to be extremely conscious of anything that limits you, whether that is from the inside or from the outside. Anything that might cause your expansiveness to have a little dent or a little scratch, now you'll be aware so that you can make a choice about whether you want to go into that limitation, whether you want to heal that limitation, or whether you want to release that limitation and stay expanded. So now as these processes are beginning to complete, and this great goddess has bestowed her love upon everyone here in the temple, and become aware that our the journey here inside the temple is completed. Collectively, we begin to make our way to the front doors, the temple, which once again silently open. And begin to exit out the front doors and down the front steps and into the beautiful, beautiful meadow. Acknowledging once again all of your companions on this journey, giving thanks and gratitude for their presence, supporting each other, giving thanks and gratitude for all the divine beings who accompanied us on this journey: earth, air, fire, and water, Divine Mother, Divine Father, and Divine Love. Giving thanks to all the guides and allies who are here. Giving thanks to our highest selves for guiding us. Allowing us to make these personal shifts. And our guides now naturally bringing us back to our entry point into the forest, into the sapling forest, waving goodbye to our companions, knowing that we shall meet again another time and place, and entering into the sapling forest. Now with your awareness so expanded, you perceive the sky way above the sapling forest. You perceive the earth deep below the sapling forest. You perceive all of the creatures, everything from the ants to the fairies to the squirrels and all the animals, all the divine beings who live in this forest, this magical forest. Acknowledging them as being part of you, celebrating with them, giving them a smile, saying hello, and following the path out of the forest and back to your starting place, to your magical starting place. And at this time, acknowledging your guide and giving thanks for their precious attendance, for their strength, for their assistance in allowing you to be strong when you weren't sure you could be, allowing you to be courageous and being encouraging, giving you guidance all along the way. Allowing this guide to depart now. So we're at the end of our journey. Take some really deep breaths into your body. Enjoy how you're feeling different. If you have water nearby, please take a sip of your water now. And we went pretty far away, so I'd like to ask you to just pat your body. If you don't have a sip of water, pat your body a little bit, pat your belly, your arms, and get yourself all the way back. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So I'm going to end the recording now and give us an opportunity to share as a community. So thank you to all the people who are, oh, actually there is one thing I wanted to mention here. Wanted to give thanks to the community of people who were here in person live, and also give thanks to the folks who are listening to this replay. And I'd like to mention that while this is a group healing exercise here today, and we were able to amplify each other's work and go deeper and further because we're here in a collective field, I also did want to let you know that I offer shamanic energy healing if you have any personal blocks or issues, or if you need some rejuvenation, inspiration, or motivation, that you would be most welcome to work with me on an individual basis. And if you just want to try out what that would feel like, I offer a free welcome session. And I'll put that link on the website, but that is templewithoutboundaries.com/welcome-session, templewithoutboundaries.com/welcome-session. And I'm looking forward to connecting with you further in person. So saying goodbye to our replayers now, and thank you so much for being here, and I'm stopping the recording.